Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One. It's Friday, November the 16th, the year 2018. Let's talk trading. Weekly wrap up. Well, we've had some interesting topics come up this week. And something I'm going to get into next week, but I got to bring it up again. And the whole idea about trading is that we're dealing with uncertainty. Um, I get Annie Duke's newsletter. She wrote that Thinking in Bets book, really good. I highly recommend, highly suggest that you read that book as a trader and learn the principles because we're really dealing with uncertainty. We talked about, indicators this week, the indicator acquisition syndrome. And you see, it really doesn't matter what indicators you use because there's uncertainty. She talks about with uncertainty there's luck and then there's also hidden information. I mean, there's a lot of hidden information that we will never even know about as traders, especially just as retail traders, trying to go up against the big banks and institutions. We're almost crazy for doing it, but every now and then one of us succeeds, and so that gives hope to all. And one thing we can do though is we can definitely employ good money and risk management. And looking here at the monthly chart, we can see we're 123 pips off the bottom, 141 off the top. Remember yesterday these numbers were even, so we're further from the top than we are from the bottom, right? And because I think we were right around the actual midpoint of the current candle, which I think I can go ahead and, I always forget to show these, but I show the current midpoint. And so you can see here that the aqua colored dots, that's the current midpoint. And so you can see we're below that. And then we'll pop over to the weekly. Once again, all gaps filled. Now, I tell you these, show you at the beginning of the week, ye of little faith. If you don't take those simple trades, it's all uncertain. There's no certainty that these are all going to fill. It's just usually they do. I think we had 4 not fill. Was it the previous week, either last week or the week before? But, based on how many times this has filled, I think maybe we had 2 not fill, within the past 4 weeks. But usually they all fill. Now, I don't think anybody's going to take all of them. You could, but there's pips to be made. That's the point. And you can see here on the weekly, we're 10 pips below that weekly open. Maybe this is, I think we were right at the weekly open when we were looking at this chart yesterday. So you can see here, there was pips to be made to the downside. On the daily, you can see here, which is really interesting because if you look at this, there was actually somewhat of a gap between yesterday's open and the previous day's close. I'm not sure what caused that. Maybe there was some news. On the ranges, you can see here the yen actually outdid the euro yen. That's an anomaly. So obviously something's going on there. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pairs over 100 pips. Now, we looked at the pound yen yesterday because of this long candle. And you can see here, once again, it got in that lower wick zone, and there was pips to be made to the other side. So hopefully some of you took that trade. Here we go. you can see right here, this is the open, and there's the previous close. So fading that gap would have been profitable there. Just fading the gap, even though it was in the middle of the week. You can see we had to pivot. If you were a pivot trader, if you triggered in there, you were probably stopped out. But the thing is, with that gap, I think that gap would override the, and it did, would override that short trigger going to the pivot. But you see here, we did take out the pivot, and these shorts were profitable here. We had another long, but as you can see, it went up, it failed, it came back down. That was a scratch trade. And here again, you see it went up, and it came back down through. That should have been a scratch trade. Here, small profits. This would have been crossing the weekly open, and it came back down. That would have been a place to take profit. If it goes past it, comes back through it. If you held, it went up. As you can see right now, it's coming back down. Just take your profit off the table. If you don't take it there, then as it exited this wick zone here on the hour, just take your profit off the table. And you can see here a Larry live trade, 128.68. There's your short right here. And once again, we took out the pivot. We still have two missed pivots here. Looks like we want to try and take out the 129.70. We have to take that one out before we take that one out. And you can see here on the price action, once again, repetitive. One ball at the bottom, you're green at the line. That was good for 20 pips. I mean, right here, you were green at the line too. That would have probably been a scratch trade. Or you might have stopped out. Here, one ball at the top, red at the line. That was good for, let's see, 10, 20, 30 plus pips. Okay, you got a two ball at the bottom. Price running hard, green at the line. That was good for, let's see, 10, 20, about 30 pips if you wanted to take it. Two ball, here we go, red at the 128.70. There's your trigger. Looking back to the rat zone, so right here, there's your triggers. Price at the line with the candle color. I mean, really, you guys are probably tired of hearing me say this day after day, but the thing is, it works day after day. So really, you should be rejoicing that it's still working. Once again, same thing. We got the wick zones, daily wick zone, price in and out, price in and out, price in, wants to come out. 128.68 is your trigger, which is really interesting. That's your wick zone trigger. That's your rat zone trigger. How often does that happen? Holo setup, you can see right here, we had a short situation, 128.78 just happening. We switch back to 15-minute. You can see here, you put that in. That was it. Went up through, came back down, giving you a nice clear signal. In fact, if you take it all the way down to the 5-minute chart, you can see there, you had that opportunity to get the short. And that was worth, 5 or 10 pips. Nice trade, right? Back to the hour. Because remember, and I'm going to probably dwell on this next week, and it's uncertain what happens with trading. And that's what makes trading, because if there was any certainty, there wouldn't be a market. Okay, you can see here, the long triggers clicked off. Good for, nice little profit, 10 or more pips here. We've got a short at 128.60. There's your short trigger. Now it's already gone up once, hit that well once, twice, go to the well a third time. Be ready to exit if you're taking this Larry live trade long, because you see if it gets up into this wick zone and then price fails, just take your 2 or 3 or 4 pips and be happy. More price at the line. You can see here we were cutting across the previous week's low a few times. And so into the wick zone and out. And you can see here on the tick display what has happened. Bid came above the valley of the ask. And you can see right here, the ask came down, put in this low point, started going up. When the bid crosses, there's the opportunity to go long. And then you can see here, right here where the ask came down below the bid, the peak of the bid, there was your trigger to exit right there. So you captured a few pips with that trade. Let's see. That was a 0.73 peak, 0.71 valley. So that was a couple of pips. No big deal unless you're trading, maybe 100 mini lots or, a couple 10 lots or something. As you can see here, we almost triggered. We triggered long right there. Now, it looks like you're seeing some hesitation. Of course, this is just a simple trigger. You can always look at the candle color and go, wait a minute, I don't know if I really want to go long here. You can always do that. You can use things to say not to trade, but as you can see here, price is starting to go back up. We got buying just clicked in, and now we've got waiting again, buying again. And you can see here as buyers are pushing up, this is the peak. And then if the bid falls below the valley of the ask, that's when we get waiting. And if the ask falls below the peak of the bid, that's when we get selling. Really simple, but I guess there's a few traders that are liking this. And of course, this being the 2018 spread dots indicator. And once again, if you look at the inputs, the default is 10 lines of history, but I've seen traders, you can change the font size way down here. I've seen them load up, 20 or 30 to get even a more complete picture to see the oscillation. And you can see here selling just kicked in. So that's it for the week, fellow traders. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've had a profitable week, and I hope you have a safe weekend. Just remember, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So for the rest of the day, continue to drain the banks.